Welcome to our exploration of one of the most mysterious and feared organizations in medieval history, the Order of Assassins. Known as the Nizari Ismailis, this secretive group operated in the shadows, striking fear into the hearts of powerful rulers and leaving an indelible mark on the history of the Middle East. In this video, we will uncover the origins of the Order, delve into the covert operations, and reveal the strategies that allowed them to wield immense power despite their relatively small numbers. From their legendary stronghold at Alamut to their influence on the Crusades, the story of the Assassins is one of intrigue, strategy, and survival. Whether you're a history enthusiast or just curious about the true story behind the legends, this video will provide a detailed and engaging look at the Assassins' rise to power, their unique tactics, and the legacy they left behind. Join us as we journey back in time to explore the enigmatic world of the Order of Assassins. Prepare to uncover the truth hidden behind the myths and discover how a small group of dedicated individuals managed to challenge the mightiest empires of their time. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of our historical deep dives. Let's begin the journey into the shadows of history. Origins of the Order of Assassins. The Order of Assassins, as a splinter group from the larger Ismaili sect of Shia Islam, was a secretive and militant sect that rose to prominence during the 11th to 13th centuries in the Middle East. The Ismailis themselves were a branch of Shia Islam that believed in a specific line of imams, whom they considered to be divinely appointed leaders. The Order of Assassins is best known for its strategic use of assassinations as a tool of political influence, targeting key figures such as politicians, military leaders, and religious figures. The Nizari Ismailis, led by Hassan I Sabah, broke away from the mainstream Ismaili movement due to a succession dispute over the rightful imam. Hassan I Sabah established the Nizari Ismailis as a militant and secretive group, dedicated to their religious and political ideals. Hassan I Sabah, often referred to as the Old Man of the Mountain, is credited with founding the order and turning it into a formidable force. He established the fortress of Alamut, located in the Elburz Mountains of northern Iran, as the stronghold of the order. From Alamut, the assassins launched covert operations, employing espionage, guerrilla tactics, and, most notably, targeted killings to achieve their objectives. During the 11th and 12th centuries, the Middle East was a region of significant political and religious turmoil. The Seljuk Empire, a Sunni Muslim dynasty, controlled much of the region, including Iran, Iraq, and parts of Syria. The Abbasid Caliphate, though still in existence, had lost much of its political power and was largely a puppet under Seljuk control. The Fatimid Caliphate, a rival Shia dynasty based in Egypt, also played a significant role during this period, particularly in the context of the broader Sunni-Shia conflict. The Nizari Ismailis, as a Shia sect, found themselves at odds with both the Sunni rulers and other Shia factions. This period also saw the beginning of the Crusades, where European Christian forces attempted to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim rule. The arrival of the Crusaders further complicated the political landscape, leading to shifting alliances and new fronts in the ongoing conflicts. Historically, the Order of Assassins played a significant role in the complex power dynamics of the Middle East during the medieval period. Their tactics of targeted assassinations influenced the political landscape, striking fear into the hearts of rulers and leading to various alliances and conflicts. In popular culture, the Order of Assassins has been immortalized in various forms of media. They are perhaps most famously depicted in the Assassin's Creed video game series, which blends historical fact with fiction, creating a romanticized and mystical portrayal of the group. Key figures in the establishment of the Nizari Ismailis. Hassan I Sabah, the key figure of the Nizari movement, was Hassan al-Sabah, born around 1050 and died on June 12, 1124. His life is full of legends, and it is believed that he was born in a city known for its Shiite Pentecostal tradition. Hassan was educated in this city and met Amir Zarab, an Ismaili Dai, summoner, who inspired him with his speeches. In search of answers, Hassan turned to Abu Najm al-Sarraj, another Dai, who introduced him to the Ismaili movement. Hassan then swore an oath to Fatimid Caliph al-Mustansir when he was 17. After his conversion, Hassan traveled through the lands of Seljuk Turks, preaching. His teacher, Abdul Malik ibn Atash, was the chief missionary in Seljuk state, but Hassan's teachings were rejected by the Seljuks, forcing him to leave and go to Cairo. In Egypt, Hassan al-Sabah continued to study the sciences and once again came into conflict with local authorities. The army commander, Badr al-Jamali, captured him, but Hassan al-Sabah escaped and returned to Persia. News of his return reached the Sunni governor, Nizam al-Mulk, who sent soldiers after him. Hassan al-Sabah hid in the mountains of El-Bursa and managed to escape capture. Hassan I-Sabah was a brilliant strategist and devout Ismaili who sought to establish a powerful, independent Nizari state. He is often depicted as a strict and disciplined leader who demanded absolute loyalty from his followers. Under his leadership, the order became highly organized and effective in its operations. Nizar ibn al-Mustansir, though not directly involved in the operations of the order, Nizar ibn al-Mustansir was a key figure in the Ismaili succession dispute that led to the creation of the Nizari Ismailis. After being passed over for leadership in favor of his younger brother, Nizar was supported by Hassan I-Sabah and his followers, which ultimately led to the formation of the Nizari faction. Rashid al-Din Sanar was a later leader of the Nizari Ismailis in Syria. He played a crucial role in expanding the influence of the order outside of Persia and into the Levant, where he became a key player in the power struggles between the Crusaders and Muslim rulers. His leadership helped to further the order's reputation as a formidable and feared group. These figures, along with the volatile geopolitical context, shaped the early development and rise of the Order of Assassins as a significant force in medieval Middle Eastern history. The foundation of the Order of Assassins. Hassan I-Sabah founded the Order of Assassins in the late 11th century. Originally a devout follower of the Fatimid Caliphate, Hassan became disillusioned with the leadership in Cairo and sought to establish an independent faction that adhered to his interpretation of Ismaili beliefs. In 1090, he took control of the fortress of Alamat in the Elburz mountains of northern Iran, which became the base of operations for the order. Hassan I-Sabah used the isolated and easily defensible position of Alamat to train his followers in the art of espionage, assassination, and guerrilla warfare. The fortress was not only a military stronghold but also a center of learning and religious instruction. The Order of Assassins adhered to the Nizari branch of Ismaili Shia Islam. This branch emphasized the importance of the Imam as a divine guide who possessed esoteric knowledge necessary for spiritual enlightenment and salvation. Hassan I-Sabah and his followers believed in the absolute authority of the Imam, who, in their view, was the rightful successor to the Prophet Muhammad. They saw themselves as the protectors and enforcers of the Imam's will. The order also embraced a philosophy of absolute loyalty and obedience to their leader, Hassan I-Sabah, and later to his successors. The members were taught that the physical world was less important than the spiritual realm, and that sacrifices made in the service of the Imam were the highest form of devotion. This belief system helped to create a disciplined and dedicated group of followers who were willing to carry out missions that often involved great personal risk. The concept of hashashin and its interpretation, the term hashashin, from which the modern word assassin is derived, has its roots in the practices of the Order of Assassins. Western accounts, particularly those of the Crusaders and later European chroniclers, suggested that the assassins used hashish, a form of cannabis, to induce a state of euphoria in their recruits, making them more willing to undertake dangerous missions, including suicide assassinations. However, modern historians debate the accuracy of these accounts, with some suggesting that the use of the term hashashin was pejorative, meant to discredit the group by implying they were drug-addled fanatics. Others argue that the term could have been derived from hashashin, which could mean those who follow the path of truth, in Arabic. Regardless of its true origins, the term has come to be associated with the secretive and deadly tactics employed by the order. The relationship between the Order of Assassins and the Nizari Ismailis. The Order of Assassins was the militant arm of the Nizari Ismaili branch of Shia Islam. The Nizari Ismailis, under the leadership of Hassan I-Sabah, believed that their Imam was the legitimate spiritual and temporal leader of the Muslim community, in contrast to the Sunni caliphs and other Shia factions who supported different lines of Imams. The Order of Assassins acted as the enforcers of Nizari doctrine, using assassination and other forms of psychological warfare to protect the interests of the Nizari Ismailis and to weaken their enemies. The Nizari Ismailis were a religious community that included both militant and non-militant members. While the Order of Assassins represented the military and strategic side of the Nizari movement, the broader community of Nizari Ismailis focused on religious observance, scholarship, and the preservation of their faith. The primary difference between the Order of Assassins and the broader Nizari Ismaili community lies in their roles. The order was a specialized, militant group dedicated to carrying out assassinations and other covert operations. In contrast, the wider Nizari Ismaili community consisted of everyday believers who practiced their faith and followed the teachings of their imam without engaging in military activities. However, the Order of Assassins and the broader Nizari Ismaili community shared a common religious ideology and loyalty to the Nizari imam. They believed in the same spiritual principles, including the importance of the imam's guidance and the esoteric knowledge he possessed. The Order of Assassins was essentially an extension of the Nizari Ismailis, acting in defense of their religious and political interests. The assassination strategy of the Order of Assassins. The Order of Assassins employed a sophisticated strategy of psychological and political warfare, focusing on targeted killings to advance their religious and political agenda in the conflict-ridden Middle East. Lacking a large military force, their approach relied on eliminating powerful opponents to instill fear and disrupt the enemy's power structure. The assassins did not have a large military force, so their strategy of targeting specific and powerful opponents was effective. The weapon of choice for their assassinations was almost always a knife, and they usually carried out their missions with a small team. Sometimes, they would disguise themselves as beggars, ascetics, or monks to gain access to their targets. The assassinations were often planned to take place in crowded locations to maximize the political and religious impact of the attack. Strategic objectives. The primary goal was to weaken enemies by assassinating key political leaders, military commanders, and influential religious figures. These targeted killings were designed to destabilize their adversaries, protect the Nizari Ismaili community, and influence regional political events. Target selection. The assassins carefully selected targets based on their influence and the potential impact of the death. The assassination of Nizam al-Mulk, the Seljuk Empire's vizier, exemplifies how they aimed to weaken formidable enemies and send clear messages to both foes and allies. Infiltration and espionage. A hallmark of the assassin's strategy was deep infiltration. Members would spend years gaining the trust of their targets, often disguising themselves as servants, soldiers, or religious devotees. This allowed them to gather intelligence and strike at the most opportune moments, making them particularly feared for their unpredictability. Element of surprise and psychological warfare. The assassins mastered the use of surprise, often carrying out attacks in public to maximize shock and fear. This created an aura of omnipresence, leaving enemies uncertain of when or where they might be attacked. They sometimes left symbolic items, like daggers, as warnings, further heightening the psychological impact. This tactic heightened the psychological impact of their strategy, spreading terror among their enemies and sometimes even leading them to comply with the assassins' demands without further bloodshed. Precision and commitment. Their assassinations were deliberate and focused, minimizing collateral damage and ensuring the intended message was clear. The assassins, known as fidai, self-sacrifices, were often prepared to die for their mission, viewing their sacrifice as a noble act in service of their community and faith. Long-term impact. The assassin strategy had a lasting impact on the Middle East, influencing political events for over 2 centuries. Even after the decline, their methods left a legacy studied in discussions of asymmetric warfare and terrorism. Operations and tactics. Alamat, the mountain fortress in northern Iran, was the heart of the Order of Assassins. Its strategic location in the Elburz Mountains made it nearly impregnable, and its isolation allowed the Order to operate independently and securely. Alamat was not just a military fortress, it was also a center of learning, where members of the Order were educated in religious doctrine, philosophy, and military tactics. The fortress served as a base for planning and launching operations across the region, and it became a symbol of the Order's power and resilience. Despite multiple attempts by various armies to capture Alamat, the stronghold remained in assassin hands for nearly 2 centuries, until it was finally overrun by the Mongols in 1256. Some of the most famous assassinations attributed to the Order of Assassins include Nizam al-Mulk, 1092, the Seljuk vizier and a powerful political figure. Nizam al-Mulk was assassinated by a member of the Order, likely at the behest of Hassan I Sabah. His death destabilized the Seljuk Empire and demonstrated the Order's ability to strike at the heart of political power. Conrad of Montferrat, 1192, a prominent Crusader leader. Conrad of Montferrat was assassinated by 2 members of the Order in the city of Tyre. This killing was significant as it occurred during the Third Crusade and showed the reach and influence of the assassins even in the context of the Crusader-Muslim conflicts. Raynald of Châtillon, 1187. Although Raynald was ultimately killed by Saladin, he was a target of the assassins due to his relentless attacks on Muslim caravans and pilgrimage routes. The assassins made several attempts on his life, demonstrating their focus on eliminating those who threatened their religious community. The assassinations carried out by the Order of Assassins were far from random acts of violence. Instead, they were meticulously planned operations, each chosen with a specific strategic goal in mind. The Nizari Ismailis, under the guidance of Hassan I Sabah and subsequent leaders, used these targeted killings to weaken their enemies and protect their community. These assassinations were designed to remove key figures whose deaths would have the maximum impact on the power structures of their adversaries. Whether it was the elimination of powerful political leaders, military commanders, or influential religious figures, each act was intended to destabilize the enemy, create fear, and shift the balance of power in favor of the Nizari Ismailis. The precision with which these operations were conducted demonstrated the Order's deep understanding of political and military strategy. They carefully selected their targets based on their influence, ensuring that the death of each one would resonate far beyond the immediate act. This approach not only protected the Nizari Ismaili community from direct threats but also sent a clear message to others: those who opposed them could be reached and eliminated, no matter their position or power. In this way, the assassins wielded fear as a weapon, using it to achieve their broader strategic objectives while avoiding large-scale military engagements. Their actions were calculated to disrupt and weaken their enemies, all while advancing the interests of the Nizari Ismaili state. Myths versus reality. The Order of Assassins has indeed been shrouded in myths and misconceptions, many of which have been perpetuated through medieval European accounts and later fictional representations. One of the most enduring and widely believed myths is that the assassins were drugged with hashish to carry out their missions. This idea has its roots in the reports of crusaders and European chroniclers, who were often unfamiliar with the cultural and religious practices of the Middle East and, as a result, created sensationalized and exoticized stories about the assassins. The term, hashashin, from which the word, assassin, is derived, is often mistakenly thought to mean, hashish users. However, there is little historical evidence to support the claim that the assassins used hashish to prepare for their missions. The myth likely emerged as part of the broader medieval fascination with the Orient, where European writers and travelers would often blend fact and fiction to create alluring tales of distant lands and mysterious peoples. In reality, the Order of Assassins was a highly disciplined and strategically minded group, operating under strict religious and political motivations. Their commitment to their cause was based on deep ideological beliefs rather than drug-induced states. The spread of this myth reflects more about the way medieval Europeans viewed the Middle East than about the actual practices of the assassins themselves. Another widespread misconception about the assassins is the belief that they were mindless fanatics, blindly following orders without any personal agency or understanding of their actions. This portrayal, often perpetuated by historical accounts and fictional depictions, paints the assassins as zealots driven solely by their leaders' commands, with little regard for their own lives or the broader implications of their missions. In reality, the members of the Order of Assassins were far from mindless followers. They were highly trained individuals, chosen for their skills, intelligence, and deep commitment to the spiritual and political goals of their sect. The rigorous training they underwent at the fortress of Alamut included not only physical and combat skills but also religious and philosophical education. This ensured that each member was fully aware of the significance of their actions and the broader mission of the Nizari Ismaili community. The assassins operated with a clear understanding of the strategic importance of their missions. Their actions were carefully planned and executed with precision, often after extensive intelligence gathering and consideration of the potential impact. The dedication of the assassins to their cause was rooted in a deep ideological commitment, not in blind obedience or reckless fanaticism. They believed that their sacrifices served a higher purpose, both in defending their community and in advancing their spiritual beliefs. This reality contrasts sharply with the simplistic image of the assassins as unthinking zealots, highlighting the complexity and depth of their motivations. Their legacy, therefore, is not just one of violence and terror but also of strategic thinking and a profound commitment to their ideals. Historical accounts of the Order of Assassins, especially those written by their enemies, often portrayed them as a shadowy and sinister group. These accounts emphasized their ruthlessness and the fear they inspired across the Middle East and Europe. However, many of these descriptions were likely exaggerated, as they were intended to demonize the assassins and justify military campaigns against them. In contrast, modern fictional portrayals, such as in the Assassin's Creed video game series, have romanticized the Order, depicting them as freedom fighters or guardians of secret knowledge. While these portrayals capture the intrigue and mystery surrounding the assassins, they often take significant liberties with historical facts, blending reality with fantasy to create a more dramatic narrative. The decline and fall of the Assassin Order. The decline of the Order of Assassins began in the mid-13th century, largely due to external pressures from powerful enemies. By this time, the Order had become a significant political and military force, but they faced growing opposition from both the Sunni Muslim powers and the emerging Mongol Empire. The internal cohesion of the Order also weakened over time, as successive leaders struggled to maintain the discipline and unity that had characterized the group under Hassan I Sabbah. Additionally, the political landscape of the Middle East was changing rapidly, with new powers rising that did not share the historical animosities of the Seljuks or Crusaders, making the assassins' methods less effective. The final blow to the Order of Assassins came with the Mongol invasions in the mid-13th century. The Mongols, under the leadership of Hulagu Khan, launched a campaign of conquest across Persia and the surrounding regions. Unlike previous enemies, the Mongols employed overwhelming force and had little tolerance for resistance. In 1256, after a prolonged siege, the Mongols captured the fortress of Alamut, the Order's most important stronghold. The population of the fortress was massacred, and ancient texts on various sciences were burned. 2 years later, Baghdad, the jewel of the Islamic world, suffered the same fate. In 1260, Masyaf, a fortress that plays a significant role in the first part of Assassin's Creed, was destroyed. The Mongol invasion led to the decline of the assassin movement. After that, the Nizaris went underground but survived for 6 centuries until the 19th century. The Iranian Shah Fath Ali granted the Nizari Imam Hassan Ali Shah the title of Aga Khan and governor of Kerman province. He collaborated with the British in India and even received royal recognition from the British government. The descendants of the first Aga Khan continue to lead the Nizari community, with a global population of about 15 million. Despite the decline, the Order of Assassins left a lasting legacy. The term, assassin, has entered the lexicon as a word for a covert murderer, reflecting the fear and notoriety the group inspired during their height. The Nizari Ismaili community continued to exist, although in a much reduced and less militant form, preserving their religious traditions and identity. The legends surrounding the assassins also continued to grow after their fall, influencing both Islamic and Western cultures. In the centuries following the decline, the assassins were often invoked in literature and folklore as symbols of mystery, intrigue, and the hidden dangers of fanaticism. The Order of Assassins in popular culture. The Order of Assassins has been depicted in various forms of popular culture, often with a mix of historical fact and creative embellishment. Some of the most notable depictions include books. The assassins have appeared in numerous historical novels, such as Vladimir Bartel's Alamut, 1938, which explores the psychological and ideological aspects of the group. This novel is often cited as an inspiration for modern portrayals of the assassins. Films. While direct portrayals in film are less common, the theme of a secretive assassin order has influenced various movies, particularly in the action and thriller genres. Video games. The Assassin's Creed series, developed by Ubisoft, is perhaps the most famous modern depiction of the Order. The games blend historical settings with fictional elements, portraying the assassins as protectors of freedom against the Templar Order. Assassins and Templars are two separate orders from different worlds, but they share some similarities in their history. They were both created by radical ideologues, and their commitment to their work and adherence to clear principles led them to great fame. However, both groups eventually strayed from their original goals and ideals and changed for the worse. They were very secretive organizations, which led to many myths and legends surrounding them. Did the Assassins and Templars ever actually clash in real life? There is no historical evidence of a direct conflict between them. During the Crusades, the Nizari Assassins and the Knights Templar may have fought both alongside and against each other, but it is unlikely that there were any groups that remained uninvolved in the Holy War. However, it is highly unlikely that any ideological or political conflict arose between the leaders of the Templars and the Assassins. Therefore, the conflict between Assassins and Templars is likely to be purely a product of the imagination of the company Ubisoft. The Assassin-Templar War as depicted in the Assassin's Creed series, highlighting its ideological underpinnings, historical inspirations, and the fictional narrative that has captured the imaginations of millions of players worldwide. The lasting impact of the Order of Assassins on modern media is profound. They are often used as archetypes in stories that involve secret societies, espionage, and covert warfare. The image of the lone, skilled assassin who fights for a higher cause continues to resonate in contemporary storytelling, from movies and TV shows to books and video games. The romanticized portrayal of the assassins as noble warriors fighting against oppression has also influenced how modern audiences perceive the group. While historically they were seen as dangerous fanatics, contemporary media has recast them as heroes or anti-heroes, making their story accessible and appealing to new generations. Summary. The Order of Assassins was a significant force in the medieval Middle East, known for their use of targeted killings to influence political and religious outcomes. Under the leadership of Hassan I Sabbah and his successors, they established a network of covert operatives who struck fear into the hearts of their enemies. Their actions helped shape the political landscape of the region, and their story has left a lasting impression on both history and popular culture. Today, the legacy of the Order of Assassins lives on through the myths and legends that have grown around them. They continue to captivate the imagination of people worldwide, symbolizing both the power of belief and the darker side of human nature. While the historical facts about the assassins may be complex and sometimes shrouded in mystery, their influence on modern media, language, and culture is undeniable. As we reflect on their story, it serves as a reminder of how history can be shaped by both reality and perception, and how the actions of a small group can echo through the ages. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of the Order of Assassins. We hope you found this exploration as fascinating and enlightening as we did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who might be interested in the incredible story of the Assassins. See you in the next time.